Hello and welcome to another video. So today we are checking out a Natura Shadow deck. Natura Shadow has been getting refined down a fair bit. I actually really like this variation of Natura Shadow. Had a fairly okay match with it. Quite happy. It's quite an alright deck. Mostly focusing on things like Sora for really good value is awesome. I really like that card. I've taken a real into it overall. Night of the Living Dog, of course, and Viridian Magna, high value, same as Lullaby. Then there's things like Ceres and Aisha, comboed with like Necrotic Aether, which are really good cards overall. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So kicking us off is going to be Shadow against Sword. Sword is about the same position as Shadow, I would say, at the moment. Although a lot of the people are putting Natura Shadow up really high, I found that it's definitely more of a high tier 2 than a tier 1 deck necessarily, at least in my experience so far. Doesn't mean it's not a really good deck, it definitely is, but it doesn't compete on the same level as Forest and Haven. It seems to be just below those in my opinion, but of course, all tier lists are pretty subjective. So setting ourselves up as early as we can for the Night of the Living Dog, that's my aim at the moment. I can't really do a lot else, so it's a pretty decent aim to aim for, so why not? Plus, I can actually go pretty well off here with easy Natura and Great Trees. We can actually do a double buff on turn 4, which is looking very promising, especially against these followers, so may as well take it. So this is the kind of turn you really want early on, as it works really well into your favor. Getting 2 5/5s on turn 4 with Rush, that's way too good. Plus I got a double draw out of the turn, so it does fill out the turn nicely. Next turn, we're probably looking at something like Disciple of Silence and Revenant Ram, or Sora, maybe, as they're both really good plays. So I did go for the Ram play, and since I had another tree, I decided to go for that play instead of going for the Disciple, since they didn't leave me anything on board anyway. So 9 damage to face, can't really pass that up early on. Especially when we potentially have Lullaby and Necrofamily next turn, or Lubell, sorry, and Necrofamily. I always think Lullaby, but pretty sure it's Lubell. So they're going to have to trade this thing, which is a lot of value to lose on this turn. Especially when still leaving up 6 damage, even more with the Evo. So 8 damage to face, 3 left, with a 4/7 that obviously negates more damage, and we're sitting pretty well right now. Shiva, that's a pretty good one, I'll give him that. Getting over the Shiva though isn't hard. And obviously, they noticed that pretty quickly, but overall ended up being a very nice game. Next up, I'm playing against the Bloodcraft. Bloodcraft you don't see a super large amount of in rotation right now. Kind of got hit too hard as far as good cards go. There isn't a lot in it that can be overbearing, I don't think. Even if a nerf happened, I don't think Blood would necessarily rise right to the top. While definitely not being a bad class, it's awkward positioning right now. It's in the same spot Forest had been in rotation for a while before this expansion, the one before that. So it's definitely not in the high tiers. So it shouldn't be a hard matchup for something like Shadow, which is always good. Although on the flip side, it does make it a more interesting match because we don't see a lot of blood, so anything you see could potentially be interesting. So we've got a fairly early setup here. There's not really a lot I can do with it though, that's kind of the disappointing part. At least with the Manifest Malice, we can kind of take these out. Get in a little bit of early damage and try and set up a Natura and Great Tree as early as I can. Alright, Forest Bat Evo. Reasonably predictable. So now I have a chance with the Necro here to go for the damage. Getting the 3-1 and hopefully a 1 ping will kill her off the bat. That would be ideal. And we got it. Perfect. I mean, it's 1 in 3, so odds were fairly decent. And Duke and Dame, and of course Looking at an Evo Blood, I'd have to guess. And of course they're going to take the best advantage for their trade-offs. We can of course remove this without much trouble. I am trying to get the Night of the Living Dog set up as much as I can, but of course I really just have to play what I have. And this wasn't bad, honestly. A 3-5 and a 2-1. And Urias isn't really a problem for us. Although they're definitely getting really good value plays. Is what made this game a little bit harder than I was expecting it to be. Like, all of these plays are just value at this point. So I have to play something. And of course I decided to go against the 3-2 first, because if I had have done it the other way around I would have lost Viridian Magna before I got the kill off. And while not having enough Natter and Great Trees played to get its defensive play, still pretty okay. Now I've got a pretty easy Necrofauna play, plus the Night of the Living Dogs. That way we can just kind of buff these up a little bit. Develop a pretty nice board. Would have been nice if I got bigger dogs, but I'll settle for what I can get at this point against Blood. Unfortunately, Grimnir, very easy removal for them. Aisha's not bad for us though, we can definitely keep that on board. And since the Necrotic Aether should nearly be active soon, we're looking at a very nice setup. This turned into a very long game, which is definitely not what I expected going in against Blood, but I guess Evo Blood is going towards a more control style now, so it's definitely designed to drag you out. Alright, no surprise that that's the way they went. Fortunately for us, the Necrotic Aethers are perfect now. We can actually get some really good damage in here. I will have to trade at least one off though, no matter which way I do things. Although I could have done this whole turn better and probably saved myself losing one of the Aishas, which definitely would have been a better play. Oh, there we go, Necrotic Aether, so I can get another Aisha next turn. I just need to set up enough shadows to take advantage of it if I can. Especially since I got Manifest Malice as well and Night of the Living Hound. Of course, I ended up going with the Aisha early instead. Just as a case, since I have an Aisha in hand. And I wasn't going to hit 16 shadows before then, I don't think. Although I probably could have, so maybe that wasn't the right play, but worth a shot. And Throth, perfect. The Throth play was just what we needed. And with a pretty decent setup here, we can actually remove both the bats, if we wanted. Not that we need to, really. Alright, so we've got them on the ropes now. We've got full health. We've dealt plenty of damage. Anything they remove is going to deal 2 damage now. So they're left with just the 1 health. And all I need is for something to get destroyed, basically. And the Natter and Great Tree was the perfect option. So this deck is great once you get to those Throth power plays. It's usually more mid to late game, but once you get this thing going, the amount of damage you can deal becomes exponentially large. Otherwise, you are focused more on using the board control route and using things like Night of the Living Dog and Aisha to really pound into your opponent, and using Ceres as your main healing unit, and then Viridian Magna as a defensive clear, and the Necro family for a similar purpose. All of which work really well together, and I really enjoyed the deck. Overall, I've got to give it a good rating. Probably 5 out of 10 as far as competitiveness goes, because I do find that it gets destroyed pretty quickly by things like Haven and Roach. But other than those matchups, this is quite a good deck and quite enjoyable, so definitely look it up if you're interested. Deck in the description below, hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time guys, see ya.